Click that fancy record button and...
There it is. There's unicorn.
You heard it or saw it?
Heard it.
That was Unicorn Heads. I don't know if that's the artist or the song. It also says Serial Dream Rock, so I really don't know what any of that means. But that was Unicorn Heads of some sort. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of the hostesses, Garlic. We're also joined by the other hostesses.
Hi, folks.
That was Mr. Josh himself. Josh, we have an email address in case you ever wanted to reach out to the show. hiddenokesoverdose@gmail.com. Facebook.com/hoodpod. We have a phone number, but the quality's shit, so thankfully no one uses it at this point. But I don't like Anchor, so I don't know what to do there. Segment start times, description below, per usual. Levi Oki illustration on Instagram if you ever want to reach out to that man. He made that beautiful art you're seeing right now. Josh, how you doing?
I'm a bit sleepy. I'm not so sure I like the whole getting dark at 4 o'clock thing.
Yeah, because you leave the office at 4:30?
Somewhere around there. Depends on the day.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's you probably get there when it's like the sun's just rising.
Yeah, it's like,
well.
oh, what a beautiful day. It's going to be so great sitting inside 4 walls and a door.
Hey, some people only got 4 walls, Josh. You're lucky to have a door, all right?
That's true. That's true. Shout out to the prisons.
Shout out to the prisons. Although they would have a bathroom in there, and you have to leave your room. Well, do you leave your room to go to the bathroom, Josh?
Depends on if I bring a big enough bucket.
Oh, God.
Funny story about that, actually.
All right, go for it.
GNC, not the ones that I worked at, but GNC in Riverdale. I used to volunteer there, sub there for a bit, and they had a gallon of water in the back. But it wasn't water.
Jug?
They had a jug back there because the bathrooms, you had to close the entire store down. Mm-hmm. You had to go down the hall, down the stairs, unlock the door, and then you had to do your business and then leave. It could be a 20-minute process just to pee sometimes because sometimes people are using that bathroom. And apparently one day security stopped them, or they got bag checked by a regional manager, and they asked what was in the bag, and he goes, "It's a jug." He's like, "I need to see it." "Do you really want to see my piss jug?" He was living the Trailer Park Boys' dream before Trailer Park Boys had dreams.
Boy, what's it? What is it? Roy? Is Ricky's dad is Roy? What's his name?
Ray.
Ray. Oh, I was one letter off. Ray would be proud.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you have a similar situation in Duluth, though? Didn't you have to like shut the gate or whatever if you wanted to go to the bathroom for longer than what do you call it, like a power squad or something like that?
Yeah. Anything longer than that, you needed to close the gate. But I like to live life on the edge, and
So just go grunt for half a second, pinch it off, go do a lap, and then go back and pinch another loaf off. Or
pretty much keep the or you keep the door open and you just help people from the back.
Yeah, laxatives are over there. Aisle 3.
How's your day going, Gar?
Good. I mean, pretty uneventful. I was without Xbox for approximately 36 hours, and some would say it was the worst 36 hours of my entire existence. And I'm one of those people who would say that, so that's how you know it's for real.
What was the first thing you did when you turned it back on?
I had to do an update, so I think I updated the console, and then I had to update both Fortnite and COD, so that's pretty much all I did.
Fortnite nowadays?
I sure do, guy. I'm trying not to spend dollars on it, so I got to keep my levels up.
I suppose.
But so that was that. The job search continues. Still uneventful so far, but hopes are up there. So we haven't talked about it in a bit, just very briefly. Podcast Wars, we've mentioned it a few times. The doors on the Victorious POD have again been shuttered. That podcast will no longer exist. You have to start with the most dramatic take first. Alex and Dave are apparently moving to the land of 10,000 plus coons, which those guys had retired, and now Alex is taking it over, I guess. I don't know what that means. I haven't listened to the first episode yet because it doesn't exist.
Sounds like they've got a lot of turnover, which is kind of an alarming thing for a company.
Thankfully, we're not part of that coaching tree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're like the Leslie Frazier offensive coaching tree, or Brad Childress. Mike Tice? I don't know. What's a bad coaching
All
tree?
those are bad. All those are bad.
No, that's them.
As head coaches, like as positional coaches, those guys are fine. But as a head coach,
whereas we're Rex and Rob Ryan over here, 100% success
elite.
all of the time.
Oh yeah, you remember Mark Sanchez Jets? They beat the Patriots in the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you want to know who else has done that? Nobody.
Literally no one ever.
Ever. Yep.
Suck it, nerds. So they are moving on and up, I guess, because I'm pretty sure that the other podcast they're moving to had a bigger fan base. So good for them, I suppose. Love you, Alex and Dave. Ryan is also back. Mr. Walters himself. He's doing his podcast thing after like a 3-week hiatus. So he exists. That's about it.
All right. Well, they're on the same podcast now, aren't they? The Land of 10,000.
No, the Land of 10,000 Plus Coons was the one that inspired Alex, and then Ryan split off to the Land of 10,000 Plus Pods. So there's still 2 different podcasts.
Oh,
but I guess Alex
got
is doing it for a different league now. I don't know how that works. The first episode hasn't been released yet under Alex's reign.
All right. No, that's fine. Good for him.
So those things exist. Most of our listeners don't care, but assuming Alex or Walters throws us a pity listen, those are some facts for you. Josh, want to jump right into them hot takes?
I actually typed one up, and that is that Miami finishes ahead of the Jets in the standings this year.
Is that like 3-13 to 2-14, or what do you think the finals are there?
Well, I think it's going to be a 3-13 to 3-13, but Miami has the
tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker.
What an interesting time to be a Miami Dolphin in general. Mine's a little bit of an overreaction, but I said Dallas misses the playoffs. They're not going to make it as a wild card. The only way they make it currently is if they win their division. Team's trending in the wrong direction. Eagles are a question mark as well, but I think the Eagles will squeak them out in the end. Hopefully that's good for Dallas, because Dallas should not have Jason Garrett as a coach anymore. So hopefully that's good for them. But hot take of the week, Dallas is not in the postseason.
I'd clap to that.
Would you clap to that? How many claps is that worth, Josh?
That is definitely worth 2 overhead claps, a hip clap, and then 3 rapid claps while jumping.
Wow, I don't even think I've seen him do the rapid claps while jumping.
That's because he's a rookie.
He'd be shot in the South, I think, if he were to leave the ground.
True.
No jumping in the South.
Welcome to the Fan Tasty Zone, brought to you by White Claw
and Strawberry Arnold Palmer.
Double sponsor, because we're double the goodness of any other pod in this area.
We're rolling in the dough. We're still saying a #1 podcast that's recorded in Big Lake on Wednesday nights. That's got to be us, right?
In my basement, for sure.
Well, for sure. All right. So the Fan Tasty Zone. Josh, we had some stuff go on this week with injuries.
Yeah, no. Sadly, this is a spoiler. I lost a T. And he had Sanders and Lockett. Sanders went down with a rib injury after I texted him to fake something. And then Lockett actually had a very scary situation where he almost lost his leg.
It was not pretty.
Compartment syndrome after a bruise. I did read today that he's doing fine, so it sounds like he actually has a chance to play this weekend. Sanders, I haven't heard any updates on. Then again, I haven't looked. And then David Johnson. I don't know if he's hurt or if he just is like...
Dude's clearly not 100% regardless of what he says.
I watched him play today, and they're like, note, this is not in slow motion. I was like, it can't be that bad. Dude was walking.
He's something is not right with the DJ.
So,
from one DJ to another, I would know something's going on there.
Absolutely, and I did a little bit of DJing in college. I played the hits at the parties. Usually, it was just a party of myself in my room, but
it was a rager.
It was a rager, all right. And yeah, he's a struggle bussin'. Fan mail. Both of them, I think, happened after noon today.
No, we got one.
You got mail.
The first one came from Brian yesterday. Mr. Brian Canup writes in, congrats on beating up on a team that started one player that was drafted in the 10th round. See you again in the playoffs. Love the Grum. That was Brian congratulating me because I kicked his ass in the redraft league.
Wait, 10th round is a big deal now? Because, I'm pretty sure Mark Andrews was 13th round for me, and he started every week.
Oh, I think he's saying only one of his players was drafted, and that one player that was drafted was in the 10th round. I think is the point he's making.
Okay, yeah, no, that's more impressive.
Right. He still lost. I don't know how impressive it is.
It's one of those...
putting together a starting lineup isn't that big of a deal.
Exactly.
We watch Nate do it not every week, but...
Hey, he still has a chance.
Very technically, he does still have a chance. So that was Brian giving me some love. Brian, I love you as well. And then, so I'll just go to... I guess it starts with Hammer. So we got to go back. We got to go to the facebook.com/herdpod.
You got mail.
And so essentially for any of our league listeners, I put out the Facebook post like always, and Hammer literally he initiated with this was this for real ? And then he tagged my personal Facebook page. And so it's a trade between Josh and Nate. Josh is trading away Miles Sanders and D.D. Westbrook for Nate's Lamar Jackson. And in that trade, Nate has to drop the Browns.
So we never did get into it. Maybe Hammer's most upset about him having to drop the Browns.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah.
He's upset about Nate having to drop the Browns?
Yeah.
Why do you think that would be?
I'm just trying to be funny.
Oh, I was hoping there'd be a little more elaboration to your funny.
It's too late.
Okay. I mean, sometimes you can like really come up with something on the spot. So I guess that's what I was thinking. But anyway, so that's the trade. Controversial to some. I know my initial reaction was this trade seems severely lopsided. It's also worth noting for context that Nate is 2-8. Well, he was 2-7 when the trade was accepted. Or no, I guess so technically he accepted it Monday. He probably
did. It was sent when he was 2-7. He had a chance at the playoffs.
Right.
He has Kyler Murray, who is also a top tier quarterback in fantasy this year.
It's true.
And Lamar Jackson was sitting on his bench. And so I thought maybe I'll try and move some of my pieces to him. D.D. Westbrook's usually my starting lineup. Miles Sanders is not. I know Saquon's hurt, and he has Carlos Hyde and Joe Mixon, who have had down years. So I figured, why not? Did I think I was getting the better end of the deal? Absolutely.
Right.
But at the same time, he was still improving his team in the process.
Right. I mean, so that's the whole point of a trade, right? You're always trying to get the most value without giving out any value or giving out the least amount of value. So that's understandable. I think people just think it's very close. And so Hammer started this conversation, and on Facebook I was like, Hammer, I see what you're saying, and on a personal level I feel you, but also as like the majority commissioner, the only commissioner, however you want to look at it, depending on who you are. Well, I know. But so I was like, I can't really touch this too heavily myself because I'm too polarizing as it is. So Hammer, if you feel strongly about this trade, you get the conversation going. And so the conversation's been going. Hammer, he put out his points, and then he was like, hey, if you don't like this, text veto. And so we've had a couple people text in veto. We've also had a couple people text in accept. I think right now Robin just came in with veto. So I think it's like 5 accept, 6 veto. So it's a very split issue, very close. And so I don't know how deep we want to get into it, but if you want to be very technical and like if you're looking at it from like a very strictly lawful/rule standpoint, there's no rules broken here. The trade deadline hasn't happened. Josh went through the proper channels. The trade was accepted Monday. There's a 24-hour review period, and the trade was fulfilled on Tuesday. The players swapped teams. So everyone had a chance to veto the trade if they didn't like it. I'm guessing what happened is no one checked their email or checked the app or didn't get the push notification that the trade happened. That's not really Josh's fault. At the same time, again, the trade does seem lopsided. So even though Josh went through all the proper channels, Josh did not break any rules. So he didn't, he didn't break any rules. I think it's more of an ethical issue for some people. They're thinking the trade is too one-sided and that Josh is getting much more benefit from a team that is essentially out of contention. Even at 2-7, Nate needed a lot of help to get in the playoffs. 2-8 now, technically still has a chance, but a lot of things would have to happen. So it's more of an ethics issue at this point. And I don't know. I guess I'll just read. Well, here. So what Brian also said. Brian, we got a second email from Brian. He said, so a hornet's nest has been opened. Why is the trade deadline during our playoffs? And Josh, I can't answer that question. I don't know why our trade deadline is in the playoffs.
I don't know either.
So there you go, Brian. We don't.
There's your educated answer.
It just is.
Ask the commissioner.
Right. Okay. So I'll. Again, we don't want to get too deep into it. Oop, that's the wrong text thread. So we'll read Josh's final points and Hammer's final points because they've been kind of the two big piece heads of this. So Josh starts with, so there's a few issues I have with this. One, you had your chance to veto this trade. It's not my fault if people turned push notifications off. It's a valid point. It's not Josh's fault. Waivers have gone through, and had this trade been rejected, I would have likely spent my first priority on a QB. That's also true. Josh also cannot get those initial round of QBs now. Nate's an able-bodied adult. That's questionable. And when I just kidding. And when I sent this trade, it was before the games. Yada yada. We didn't text anything before, so Josh is essentially saying there's no collusion. I mean, Josh made his first offer expecting a counter, and the counter never came. And then Josh used the argument of trade analysis. He's put it into some websites, and some are saying it's a fair trade. Some are saying Josh loses. Some are saying Josh wins. I mean, all those trade websites, I'm sure, have different inputs and outputs, but he's saying it's split. It's not super lopsided. Hammer said, "Here's my final take."
Well, hang on. The reason I put that in there, and yes, I understand that it's split in those sides. You got to take those with a grain of salt. But usually, if you see an extremely lopsided trade, it would pop up as extremely lopsided.
Sure.
And so, and it would be consistent because consistency is key across all of those websites. That was why I put it in there.
Sure. And then so Ammer's final take is, my final take is, I'm just saying from the outside it looks fishy, which I think that's a valid point. Josh says Nate's team got better. I disagree. That's debatable. He's already got 2 other running backs besides Saquon that are pretty much the same production as Sanders. And there were 3-4 receivers on the waiver wire that were just as good as DD. I haven't validated that. But to the running back point, Josh, you did say that Miles Sanders averages more than his other 2, which is technically correct, but it was by like 0.1 and 0.6. So they're very comparable.
Right. And if you take a look at his scores, he's a rookie. First couple of weeks, he wasn't putting up points, and those are factored into his averages.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
So
that's not wrong. He said, I have no doubt that Josh just threw the trade out, not expecting Nate to accept it, but it still seems extremely lopsided. If the majority is cool with it, or Garlic deems that the trade would be unfair to negate, or if it would be unfair to negate the trade now, I'm fine with it. But I just wanted the league to know about it. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't know. That's just kind of the situation that it is. So, again, one more time, the trade is Lamar Jackson. Josh is receiving for D.D. Westbrook and Miles Sanders. So, it's causing some controversy today, and it sucks even more that the trade has already gone through an ESPN. So, it'd be one thing if we were trying to veto it during the review period, but that's already coming past.
Yeah, so, I mean, why have a review period?
Well, yeah, I mean, so...
We also did just get another veto vote, so if we get one more, that means that it would have been vetoed if they would have voted at the right time, but since it wasn't during the right time, then we have an issue.
Yeah,
that issue is going to lead to further issues down the road, depending on what happens.
Well, I mean, no one's going to walk away from this happy since it's so split. It's not lopsided veto or accept. So some party's going to be leaving from this upset, and it's understandable with a divisive issue. So. Hopefully the league could so we still haven't heard from I think 3 people, and so hopefully they can just kind of decide the majority of rules, and then we can put it to bed. But if it comes down to 7-7, that's going to be terrible, and trying to make that decision is going to be awful. But that's
then at the same time, then we have to revert all of the waivers, go through all that process.
I mean, that won't happen.
So then we can't take the trade back.
I mean, they would just say it's a consequence of your quote unquote, and this isn't me saying it, I'm saying this would be the counter argument. It'd be an unethical trade because that happened. Your consequence was you didn't get the waivers. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to go through and reverse the waivers. That's too much work.
All right. No, that's fine. I just feel like then it's not a fair situation overall because that's unethical as well on their part.
Yeah, I guess. I don't see the unethical part of it.
I'm going to stick with my first point. There is a review period for a reason. It's not my fault if they turned their notifications off and they didn't check it during that time. Not only was it not our review period is 24 hours, which is 24 hours shorter than most, but it wasn't even brought up till 72 hours later? Or no, not 72.
I mean, I brought it up right away. Technically,
you did, and you voted
to T and Bradley, I think,
and you voted on the vote, from what I understand.
I did,
absolutely, and so that's fair. If it would have gotten turned down Monday, no big deal. I might have thrown Nate a different offer, maybe something closer to the center, closer that people would have said, okay, that's a little bit fair. But it didn't get turned down, and because of that, people who only check their phone once a week, for some reason, they have a big deal with it. So,
well, I mean, I think ultimately it comes again. You didn't break any rules, so that's your point. Is that there's a review period. You did everything above the board.
So I'm punished. So if it gets vetoed, I'm punished for not breaking rules. Whereas they're changing rules in order to get me punished.
They're not change. So it's an ethical versus like a lawful. I don't know if lawful is the right word, but you didn't break any rules. But it's like, is this trade in good faith, or is this trade? Does it hurt the integrity of the league, quote unquote? Would be some of the arguments I could see coming out.
But then wouldn't the counter argument to that be going through the regular process, changing things after the regular process has gone through? Doesn't that hurt the integrity of the league? Because now every trade after this can be subject to, well, hang on, maybe someone didn't get a chance to vote and then brought up. And then as you see in here, everybody afterwards who said veto just said veto. No reason behind it. Everybody that said, yeah, that's a fine trade. Nate has Kyler Murray, another great quarterback, and his team did improve with the 2 position players. Nate has Kyler Murray. So people who are accepting it have reasoning behind it. People that are vetoing it are just saying veto.
Well, I mean, a veto, whatever, groundwork was already laid for them. So, I mean, like Hammer put out points for veto. I can understand if they're not adding more, but...
That's fair.
But I definitely see what you're saying, and we don't want to go into this too long, but ultimately it's going to come down to, since Josh didn't break any rules, should we just keep the trade going through? Because obviously that's what happened. Josh did nothing wrong, and so, half the side is arguing it would be unfair to take this away from Josh and Nate if Nate cares about this trade, though Josh admitted it's unlikely Nate cares, and I think almost everyone in the would agree that Nate doesn't care about fantasy at this point in the year. So that's a factor, but it would be ultimately, did the right thing happen, I think, is the biggest issue to some people. And, that's where the ethical situation, the moral dilemma of what right and wrong, which is so subjective, which makes this difficult. What's right to Josh is not right to... I'm not even say Hammer's and Josh's morals and ethics are that different, but obviously they're on two different sides of this. Hammer's saying that even though this went through the proper process, this trade is too lopsided and should be vetoed now that we did notice it. So it's a matter of, does the right thing ultimately happen at the end, or did we have our window and it's shut? Is the deal, and so that's how it's going to be, and we should probably stop talking about it now. I think we tried to cover it pretty fairly. I think we saw both sides, but so that's what happened, and trade controversy here at the end, and at the end of the season we can definitely talk about, should the trade review period be longer? What else I don't know what else you would talk about, but just the trades and how they work, or when the trade deadline is. That's the other one. So the timing of the trade deadline and the trade review period are worth discussing after the season. So that'll be that. Okay, Josh, that was super fun. Do you want?
Yeah, no, I mean, my final thought is that if it gets reversed, well, fuck you guys, because honestly, I went through all the proper process. Nate accepted it. Whether or not he put any thought into it, that's up to him. It's not as if I texted him ahead of time, but I'm just saying, maybe you're scared, Hammer. Maybe you're scared, Jamie. Maybe everyone's scared because they figure, okay, now Josh has an actual quarterback. But at the same time, it's complete bullshit that you don't check your phone until the day before the Thursday night games, and now you expect to change. Grow up.
That's a final stance to have for sure. Sounds like it might get more personal than it should.
No.
All right, so that took way longer than we planned the segment to go, but I had another thing planned. I got to boot that up real quick. So, Josh, a couple times this season you've talked about Kirk Cousins and checking down and throwing very short passes. It's come up, I think, at least on 3 separate occasions. I'm going to play a sound clip from 2 different snippets from the podcast, if it'll play.
But was that touchdown to Adam Thielen? That was on a short pass where Thielen just did all the...
Incorrect.
No? Okay. Okay. That's fine. They looked revamped. Cousins came out hot. He took a lot of safe passes. I mean, he did. I know they wanted, I think one of the things that Diggs and Thielen said, maybe it was just Thielen, he wanted him to take more chances downfield, trust his receivers, because last year that's what he did. I mean, he threw the ball downfield and they caught the ball. This year, it seems like his ball, air travel for that ball is only 5 yards or less, it seems. He's throwing a lot of short passes, a lot of things, and there's been times where he definitely hasn't had time, especially in that Chicago game. This one, he did have a couple deeper throws, but I think on the 2 touchdown passes, they were kind of short crossing, drag routes. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I do. Part of me wants to say that mentally, I thought to myself, why he's just throwing it short and Thielen's making moves, or not necessarily Diggs, because Diggs has not done much at all this year, but that's yeah, still true. Cook is catching more balls than Diggs this season, and so he's still doing the check down thing, and while it was nice, he threw the ball 30 times and completed 20.
That's what I just cut the clip off there. You went on just a little bit more about that. That was after the Giants game. That was week 5, I believe. And then you mentioned it again in text during the Sunday night game. So it had bugged me on a personal level. I'm like, Kirk Cousins is not throwing the ball that short. Specifically in the I had called you out via text after the Giants game because you said the 2 touchdowns were short crossing passes. Like, no, one of them was a corner route, probably only traveled through the air like 18 yards, but it wasn't like just a check down. And the other one was a post to Thielen that probably traveled 15, 18 yards in the air.
Check down.
That's a post route is a check down?
Well, yeah, in Madden, I throw the ball 60 yards downfield every time.
Right. So instead of just putting Josh's intuition against mine and Josh's potential bias against my potential bias, I just pulled up some next-gen stats provided by the NFL themselves.
Very truthiness.
Very true, very truthiness. Josh, you got to use the argument that supports you the best. If you don't have any facts that can support you, that's where the truthiness comes in. Today, we just looked at the numbers for what they are. So we have 4 stats here. We have the average completed air yards, which is how far the ball travels in the air from the line of scrimmage. So not from where he throws, from the line of scrimmage to where the receiver catches it. There's intended air yards, which is the same thing, just not completed passes. Did you just erase a number? Damn it, Josh. And then so there's aggressiveness, which is whether or not the quarterback is throwing into a small window, which is determined by being within 1 yard of the receiver or not. And then air yards to the sticks. So how far from the sticks are the passes being thrown? A negative number would, of course, be behind the sticks, and a positive number would be the ball is being thrown in front of the stick. So Kirk is he has a completed air yards of 6.1 on average per pass, which is 18th in the league. His intended air yardage is 7.9, which is 20th. His aggressiveness is 9.5%, which is dead last out of 38 quarterbacks tested. That was 38th out of 38. And then his air yards to the sticks is a negative 1.2, which is 19th in the league, meaning he's throwing it on average a yard and a foot essentially behind the sticks. So I know Josh never made this about Rodgers, but just to leave Rodgers as like a benchmark, since Rodgers is regarded as better than Kirk in every way, and I'd have to agree, his completion is actually lower than Kirk's. He's throwing at 5.8 air yards, which is 22nd in the league versus Kirk's 18th. He's intending to throw the ball further at 8.5, which is 14th to Kirk's 20th. His aggressiveness is slightly higher at 13% to Kirk's 9.5. So Aaron Rodgers is 33rd out of all the quarterbacks.
That's just because of all of the separation these wide receivers get.
All your elite receivers?
Yeah.
It could be.
All of the Whitewater, Wisconsin kids.
It could be. And then average yard to the sticks, he is negative 0.4, which is just behind the sticks, less than half a yard, which is 14th in the league. So overall, they're pretty comparable. Overall, Rodgers is slightly above her in aggressiveness and yards to the sticks and intended yards, but Kirk is on average completing more passes with further air yards. So they're pretty close, but just take those numbers for you, Will. Josh, I wasn't trying to change your opinion by any means, but just showing that I guess Kirk isn't dunking down all the time. And
and I mean, kind of, I'm not saying you kind of put words in my mouth, that sort of thing, because I have said it a lot and I'm not going to deny it.
Sure.
When I did mention it in the text later on, because it could have been, because it seemed to be misinterpreted. Kirk against Dallas threw the ball, 6-7 yards, just right in front of the line of scrimmage. I mean, the ball traveled about that far, so it went, 3 yards about in front of the line of scrimmage. Almost every play on a single drive, and I was like, okay, Dallas has to pick up on this.
That was it was the 2-minute drill right before the half, so they're probably in prevent.
Yeah, and that's just it. It seemed like Dallas was playing. It was more of a knock on their defense, because it's like, isn't anyone going to cover that guy? But instead, they were in that prevent. And then I know that the announcers on that last play said, "Wow, there's very little aggression there," and that's true. But
yeah, I mean, he's dead last in aggression. I won't argue with that. You could try and spin that how you want, but dead last is dead last in aggression.
But yeah, until the day I die, Kirk Cousins only throws the ball 1 yard downfield.
There you go. So those are just some numbers. Again, I don't think Josh's or mine's eyes were going to change. Maybe we'll just take away some bias and you can look more at the numbers. But fun fact, for all those stats we listed, average completed air yards, intended air yards, aggressiveness, and air yards to the sticks, Matt Stafford leads all those categories, or did as of before the Monday night game. So shout out to Matty Stafford. Okay, Josh, we talked a lot about trades for a long time. We talked about some numbers that we probably didn't intend to talk about too deep into the past. You want to talk about some home results, Josh?
Green Bay won. They're good.
Vikes won. Even better.
No.
Prime time on the road. Hostile environment, team with the winning record.
Yeah.
I think we won the Super Bowl, according to some Vikings fans. This is it. We've made it. We've proved it.
I was going to say.
There's nothing left.
I felt like if I visited the Vikings subreddit, I was going to leave with, just a bunch of skull.
You would have been covered in hot dish dribble for sure. But so, yeah, both our teams won. My notes were it was a good team win. We started hot. We went up 14-0, but then we had that lull in the middle. We let them come back. They scored, I think, either 14 or 21 unanswered on us. So we had a lull in the middle, and then we finished well. We stopped them on defense. We got some more points on offense. So it was just like the Eagles game, for anyone who watched that. Good hot start. We lulled in the second/third quarter, finished hot. So a very similar script there. Zim was steadfast in his commitment to stop the run. Even when his secondary was getting shredded, he's like, Zeke will not run the ball, which I think he ended up with 20 or 21 carries for 47 yards, which is terrible for a man like Zeke. You could see at the end of the game, Zeke, and he's been accused of this a couple times, but Zeke essentially gave up. Like, he was not running hard on that one. I think it was his second to last run. Like, he got tackled for a loss, and he literally just laid down, fuck this game, so he wasn't having a good day. We got in his head a little bit maybe, but that's what Zim wanted to do, so it happened. And just shout out to him. Amari Cooper was shredding us, and we weren't in good position sometimes, but sometimes Amari Cooper was catching the ball probably 5 feet out of bounds. His entire wingspan was extended while his toes were just barely in the grass, and good luck defending that 9 times out of 10. Amari Cooper is a special talent and good on Dak for having that accuracy. But we won, so suck it, nerds.
Yeah, and I mean, I said a lot about Zeke looking kind of bad, but the scheme on D had a lot to do with it. Fair catch. There's a punt in the fourth. When they were trying to make their comeback at the end there was a fair catch, and there were a lot of yards in front of him. I wrote down, I don't even know what that number is, but it's more than 4 billion yards. And then the run on 3rd and short when they'd been shredding the defense with passing. And then I know I texted it to you, but
the last 3 plays,
they were trying to get Zeke the ball.
It was the second to last series, but yeah, because they threw a Hail Mary at the end. But the
that's
second to
right.
last series, there was 2nd down, 3rd down, 4th down. For whatever reason, they were insistent on giving the ball to Zeke. It was a run, and then a flat route to Zeke. All 3 failed, of course.
And that flat route was covered pretty well.
Eric Kendrick, shout out to him.
Yeah, so it was not a good play calling to close the game there, the second to last drive for Dallas.
You think Jerry Jones was sitting up in that suite of his, is like, I paid that fucker $100 million, $50 million guaranteed, get him the goddamn ball. You think Jerry's that much of a hothead?
Yes. Cousins did overcome his biggest criticisms, but I'm sure, as we know with the media, they're going to say something along the lines of, well, it's a team game, so you can't really...
It was Dalvin Cook, wasn't Kirk Cousins. I mean, yeah. Kirk Cousins wasn't amazing. He was pretty average, efficient. He won the game.
Yeah, he was $84 million game manager.
I guess so.
That's, it's a win, so who cares?
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, media is going to media. And then I mentioned here, what we talked about with the checkdowns. Dallas seemed to give Cousins those first 5 yards on every pass, and he took them if it ain't broke,
Right, yeah. Kirk's definitely throw to the open guy, so
yep.
If it's open, he's going to throw it.
And at least he's not Ponder because he hits the open guy most of the time.
Don't look at that Chiefs game. We won't talk about the Chiefs game. Otherwise, he hits the open guy most of the time.
Packers! They apparently cheated to win 24-16 over Carolina. McCaffrey only gained 108 rush yards and 33 receiving yards. I don't know how that happened. I think he was taking a nap.
He's washed up. It's done. Sell him.
Yeah. Jamie, you want to give me McCaffrey?
McCaffrey for who's a scrub on your team?
I don't have scrubs on my team.
Okay, Josh.
3 sacks, 1 interception, and a fumble recovery is nice for the defense. They're definitely a turn the ball over team and then do well. Lazard finished with 2nd in the team with targets and had some nice plays. I think he's moving up that depth chart and Aaron Rodgers' trust pretty quickly. And so that's nice to see because he's a big boy. He looks like a tight end out there.
He's tall for sure.
Once again, I think I put the note in there a couple weeks ago. Aaron Jones is good. I don't know if you know this, but he's better than Christian McCaffrey just because he has more touchdowns than him this year. So suck it, white guy.
He doesn't lead the league in rushing, though.
Who cares? That's a dumb stat. How many points do you get for rushing? 1 point for 10 yards. How many points do you get for touchdown? 6.
Do you think Aaron Jones is a higher fantasy position than Dalvin Cook?
He's not. Okay. I think they're 2 and 3.
Really?
Yep.
That'd be interesting.
I think I'm fairly confident that Dalvin's
I'm not saying you're wrong. I genuinely have no idea. I know it depends on PPR.
You read your notes, and I'm going to look.
Because, I mean, Dalvin's been talking. I've been catching a lot of screens this year, so it's
Dalvin likes to hold balls in his hands, that's for sure.
What a fucking loser. So my only note for this Pack versus Carolina game was it was a good RELAX game for the Pack. You know, they had just got stomped by the Chargers unexpectedly to pretty much the entire world. They were rushing the ball in an abusing fashion against Carolina, so that was good for them. Have the ground game going. And that was a good goal line stand at the end. I don't know if it was 8 downs. It was for sure at least 4. I thought there was a penalty in there, but maybe not. But anyways, they stopped McCaffrey at the end, and that wasn't to win. That was to tie because for some reason Ron Rivera went for 2 earlier in the game and didn't get it, so they're down by 8. But
analytics, man.
Carolina had a chance and they didn't punch it in. So. Good for them. And, this Packers team is, if you look to the Jaguars of like 2-3 years ago, the Bears of last year, their defense, a lot of their success is on turnovers on the defense, which, as you've seen, has not been sustainable for those last 2 teams. But this Packers offense is significantly better than that Jaguars or Bears team ever was. So
No. Bortles, come on. In a heartbeat.
The boat.
Heartbeat.
I'll give it to the boat.
Sit down, Rodgers.
So that defensive success is not likely sustainable with all those turnovers into the year's future. But as long as if they stay similar and Rodgers stays Rodgers, this team's going to do a lot of good for the next couple of years.
And I would say that turnovers are huge, but they've had quite a few decent goal line stands. So
sure, yeah,
and that's great. And they're a bend but don't break. But hang on, just give me the ball here and I'll take care of it for you.
Don't mind me.
I mean, it's well-rounded football, and as a Packers fan, that's something that I don't think I've got to witness since the Super Bowl run that they had, where they were actually a top 10 defense. I don't think they're top 10 at this point in the league in the year.
It depends on in yardage, probably not. But it depends.
They missed Darnell Savage for a few games, and he's as a rookie, he's made an impact, and so he's kind of getting reacclimated to things after coming back from his injury, and so. I'm hoping that with this bye week, they go into San Fran healthy. If they beat San Fran, they're in a good spot to actually take the 1 seed. And if you would have told me that in the beginning of the season, I probably would have laughed you out of my house.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of football left to be played, but they're certainly in a great position.
No. Just enough football to be played.
Just enough football to be played, but they're in a good position.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the Week 10 watchable moments. Josh, did you watch the Thursday night game that is prehistoric to us at this point, or no?
What? Did you watch Thursday?
Last Thursday, there was
I did not watch it because I think I was busy doing chores.
That would sound believable if I thought you did chores more often than once a week when your wife has the whip out and she's literally demanding that you do chores. Maybe that was that Thursday, though. Could have been.
No, she was asleep. I think I was playing COD.
Could have been. But anyway, so 2 of my probably second and third favorite current teams played each other. Los Angeles Chargers in Oakland. The game was close pretty much to the end. It was an exciting game of football. Not quite, didn't live up to the hype of the Monday night game we witnessed, but we'll get there. But it was a good game for me to watch. I love both those teams. Ultimately, Rivers had a chance at the end to lead a game-winning drive. He went 0 for 8 with a pick. So, dude was rough. He was out there. He's known for 2 things, making babies and chucking maybes, and he chucked a lot of maybes that game, and Chargers lost.
Atlanta, New Orleans. Thought it would be this is exactly how this game was supposed to go, except the wrong team put up points. Yikes. New Orleans defense was sluggish. That offense did nothing. I read a stat somewhere that it's like the first time in 300,533 games that Drew Brees has played that they haven't scored 10 points.
Probably. I mean, you think coming off the bye your team would be better, but they were sluggish, like you said.
Yep. Kansas City at Tennessee, Magic and Music Town. That was a game and a half.
That was exciting.
That block kick at the end was extremely exciting. That was intense. Miami. Whoop, whoop.
They can't even tank good. This team is literally the worst in every category.
That's how bad they are. Well, they probably saw Cincinnati trotting 11 paraplegics out there and decided, maybe we could try a little bit. We don't want to be as bad as the Jets.
So they win in an upset. I think literally everything because the coaches and the players don't want to lose, but it's certainly ownership, GM, whoever else. They pulled Ryan Fitzpatrick out of the game. Like, I don't know if you saw that or not.
They
but
did, yeah.
Yeah. I think you can see, like, I haven't seen it in a bit, but I think you can see Ryan Fitzpatrick saying, what are you talking about? Like, when they're it's the neutral concussion guys pulling out of the game, and Ryan Fitzpatrick's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why are you pulling me out of the game right now? So clearly someone somewhere slipped someone a 50, a hundo, whatever, to get Fitzpatrick out of that game.
It's Miami. It was definitely a $5 bill.
They don't have much more. So that happened. The Rams lost in Pittsburgh.
Yikes.
I mean, I did talk about it roughly at the beginning of the season that the Rams and the Chiefs might get figured out, but I didn't think it'd be this bad for the Rams. They've had a lot of injuries and whatever else, but it's looking ugly.
I don't
for
think
that team.
Todd Gurley touched the ball at all in the fourth quarter. That was one of the things that I read. And he's
been on a snap count all year, but yeah.
They say he's healthy. And so Sean McVay said, my bad. Cooper Kupp didn't get I think he got 4 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards. So thank you, Jared Goff, for making me lose a T. But yeah, other than that, Pittsburgh defense looks solid. I mean, they had a couple takeaways and a touchdown. So
yeah, that team's surprisingly good with no Big Ben. And no Bell, no Brown. They're looking good.
Did you watch the Monday night game?
Josh, did I ever? Anyone who watched that Monday night game knows that was a classic we just witnessed.
I told Nikita the very next day, I wanted to go to bed and at halftime, and I was like, okay, this is a good game. I'm going to stay up. I'm going to wait until it gets out of hand.
Right. Wait till it's
It
lopsided.
never got out of hand. And then it got to overtime. I was like, if they get in the red zone, I'm just going to go to bed and get ready for bed and then check in on it, see how it ended.
Right.
So I watched that entire game, even overtime.
Right.
Have you seen the controversy?
Talk about Geno Smith? Or there's plenty of controversy, but you talk about Geno Smith, the overtime flip.
Yep.
Heads or tails? Tails. He called heads, and it's heads. Geno Smith's just like, you're goddamn right, he called heads.
Well, I heard heads during the broadcast.
I guess I didn't even register it. I just heard what the ref said, and I assumed that was
that's
correct.
what I meant.
Right.
And it's like, if he didn't call heads, Geno probably would have reacted more than he did. But at the same,
that's a veteran move though, to let it play out and be like, yeah, I did say heads.
But and we're gonna I want to spend a little bit more time on this. I mean, Green Bay has a bye, so we don't have to talk about anything there for next week. But
go for it.
I read, so we were texting back and forth, and the refs have been getting a lot of flack this year, rightfully so.
They've been not great.
Booger Breath or whatever his name is, and
Booger McFarland,
whatever his name, Joe. I don't even
know
care.
The other guy. No, yeah, I have no idea.
They were trying to get BJ's from the ref the entire game. This is a really good call. I think they're doing a great job.
To their credit, the refs had a couple good calls.
That's great. But then they had the roughing the passer on Pretty Boy.
All you heard was crickets.
Yeah, and then they had the non-roughing the passer on Russell Wilson on a play. Who was the guy who caught the ball and had double helmet to helmets? Is it 2 negatives cancel out? Is that what that was?
I think so.
Because it was on Seattle, 2 helmet to helmet contacts, no call, crickets. And so I read an article and I was like, it can't be that bad. And it reminded me of all of the missed calls. There were more missed calls than there were touchdowns in that play.
In a play or in the game?
In the game.
Okay.
In that game. No, it was and like you said, crickets whenever there was just a missed call. I think Boomer got a talking to after that Packers-Lions game.
Booger? Yeah, he was hot.
Yeah, and he was
calling out the refs left and right.
Yeah, he was over there getting the Lubriderm out, just saying, good call. Good call.
There's probably someone under that desk in the booth for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And then he had to take his turn, of
course.
But
yeah, I mean, overall, Josh Gordon.
2 catches for 14 yards?
Clutch.
Greatest receiver in the game. Played at 28 snaps, I think I saw. But no, that game was very exciting. I think there were 7 turnovers. The game was 80% defense.
Russell Wilson throwing that pick in the red zone, first of his career. First of the season, first of the week. I don't know.
I think it was the second of the season. But yeah, I don't know if it was first in red zone or whatever. But I think it was the second of the season.
Yeah, first in the red zone.
Right. Which was, that was intense.
I was going to say it's not the first in his career because Super Bowl.
And then at the very end, it was the Seahawks are about to march down, or they're trying to march down the field for the final field goal of the game. They run a 4 verts. San Fran's in man. And Russell Wilson just runs for 15, 20 yards. What are you guys, fucking stupid? Russell
21 yards.
He's done that for his entire probably 6-year career at this point. But Russell Wilson's a mobile guy. He's gonna run, and they don't spy him or nothing.
They probably just thought he was too high.
Idiots. God, yeah, well, that dude's got some eyes on him. But so, yeah, very, very exciting game Monday night. Could definitely be a playoff preview, depending on how the playoffs shake out. But what a game, just like you said. All right, let's move on to previewing the Homer games.
I'll start.
All right, go ahead.
Green Bay's 8-2 going into the bye week. Don't get arrested. I don't know. Actually, I do have a little bit of a tidbit. Did you see that interview with Jamal Williams? So I think it was Monday at one of the kind of end of the week type interviews. They're asking him a question. I didn't even listen to it, but I just read kind of some of the comments, and it's like a 30-second clip, and like 20 seconds in, Jamal just looks up, and he definitely has some goofy answers to questions.
Okay.
And he looks at him and goes, I'm not going to lie. I stopped listening halfway through. And he just starts giggling. and then the comment or the caption was, bye week, it's begun.
I like that. No, I didn't see that, but that's funny. So yeah, I mean, we haven't even had a bye yet. We just had a mini bye, and we had a player with a DUI and an illegal possession of a gun on that. So as long as you guys aren't fucking idiots like the Vikings, you should be fine. But so yeah, Green Bay doesn't play this week. The world celebrates. Minnesota, I'll try and be very brief because we're gonna be very long today. We're shooting for under 90 minutes at this point. But Minnesota plays Denver in Minnesota. I said it last week. This game doesn't seem important, but this game is a must-win, even if they're a bad team. Defense needs to have a better showing. We're playing against Allen. I'm going to say Brandon Allen. I don't know if that's his first name. I think it's Brandon Allen is the quarterback. The fact that I didn't know it tells you everything you need to know about this team. Denver's defense, despite what the record is stacked, but the offense needs to do just enough. And if our defense can't shut down Brandon Allen, woof. So the game's a must-win. We're not going to have any postseason success unless we win out and have home field advantage in the playoffs, because this team isn't just quite built for that. So that's what I think. It's a must-win, and that's that. Josh, it looks like you had a note.
Yeah, I just wrote that defense needs to step it up for Minnesota. I mean, it's not a bad defense, but they're not the world beaters they used to be. So, and with the offense in the position it's in, with injuries and different things aside, they need to stop teams as well, because I don't. I guess I don't think that the offense is going to win as many games if the defense isn't performing well. The games that you guys have won, it seems the defense has done its job. Then again, I've been proven wrong on the offense. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Dalvin Cook's good. I don't like Diggs. I think he fumbles too much and is cocky and arrogant for no reason.
For no reason?
Yeah, he sucks.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you can certainly say your opinions as not like the guy. Go for it.
Thielen's likely not to play, is what I read today.
Mm-hmm. I read the same
so,
thing.
this is if there's a trap game on the schedule, it's this one: 6-3 versus 3-6 at home. But at the same time, it should be a win. I think the offense is stronger than Denver's defense.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like the Washington game. It probably won't be sexy. We probably won't win by 48 points, but who cares? Just win the game. It doesn't matter how much you win by a team this season. So that's that. Josh, let's talk about some Week 11 jingling in your tingling.
Houston at Baltimore. Good game.
Dallas at Detroit. Is Detroit done?
New Orleans at that Florida team, the one in the Bay. Yikes. Don't mess up, New Orleans.
Chicago in LA. Rams, that is. Both teams are struggling. What happens?
Patrick Mahomes and the red team with the mustache man at the Mexican Chargers. They've both been bad. Playoffs. Could be in shake. I don't know what I just said. Potential playoff implications. Locks and upsets.
I don't know what that was like. Almost, I was like, that felt like a slam poetry thing we were doing there. But we weren't slamming anybody.
Oh, it wasn't?
We were just reading things very slowly. All right, Josh, locks. And, oh, God, come on. Play for me, baby girl. Don't do this to me now. There we go. Locks and upsets. We have a new leader, Josh. Jalen is no more. The Kyle Jevnogger now tops the leaderboard. The dude has hit on 10 or has hit on 9 upsets in a row. He's unstoppable. Kyle with 25 points. Jalen right behind him, 24. T, 22. Brad, 21. Brian, 20. Nikita, 20. Jesse, 18. Jordan, 18. Walters, 18. Garlic, 17. Josh, 16.
Sweet 16.
Eric, Derek, Aaron, they got no chance. Next week, we're opening up for double upsets. We'll see if that changes the landscape. But right now, it's Kyle's games to lose. Jalen and T right on his heels. Brad, Brian, Nikita, wild cards. Who you got this week, Josh?
I've got Minnesota versus Denver as my lock, like I mentioned. It could be a trap game, but I don't see it. I don't see Zimmer letting that happen after the embarrassment of Buffalo last year. And then my upset is New York Jets and Washington. Apparently, Washington is favored.
They're favored by a full point, so I think you got that one in at the right time. All right, let's see. Who do I got? I got Minnesota over Denver.
Stone cold lock of the century.
I want the sounder.
I told you to send me a sounder if you want one, Josh. Do you want the same sounder?
This one.
Team has a bunch of losers in Minnesota.
You're so predictable.
Wait, no, that's my lock. Never mind.
Bunch of losers in Minnesota. All right, and then my upset is Pittsburgh over Cleveland. It's the Thursday night game, and the fact that Cleveland was favored by 3 when I looked at it is ridiculous. Cleveland sucks, even if the game's in Cleveland. Pittsburgh is hot to trot. I'm taking pity.
My lovely wife has Oakland beating Cincinnati, which I think is a great lock. And then her upset is the same as yours, Pittsburgh over Cleveland.
Copycat, no fair.
I think your upset is atrociously bad and awful, but Nikita, great pick.
Yeah, I feel the same
No,
way.
I'm just kidding. That was one of the ones that I was looking at too. Then I got
Yeah.
to thinking, I'm not going to trust some stupid red-nosed reindeer to lead my team to an upset.
How dare you? What if he gets injured and they call him the world champion duck caller, Ducky Hodges?
Son of a bitch.
Just saying it's a possibility. No word from Eric's or Walters this week so far. Our weekly contributors are, guys, just taking a bye week. That's fine. It's totally fine, guys. We don't need your content. We're not desperate. But the only other locks and upsets we have are Brian so far. Brian, he's got Minnie over Denny as his lock. And he's got Houston over Baltimore as the upset. I think that's kind of brave with how we've seen Baltimore play recently. They're not unbeatable, but they're certainly favored. So we will see, Brian. We will see. You want to move on, Josh?
Yeah, I'm feeling something. That
You got a fever?
got a little bit of a fever. I got a fantasy fun time fever.
And what's the only prescription?
What week are we in?
This will be week 10. Or will be week 11.
Only prescription is heroin.
The only prescription is more heroin. All right. So, Josh, grain of salt. Oh, we always start Fantasy Fun Time with a grain of salt. So, as is par for the course for me, I will not stop being extremely average. I went 4-4 last week. I am either 4-6 or 5-5 or 6-4 in all 8 of my leagues. So very middle of the road. 2 of my teams are doomed, in my opinion. But I'm overall 43-37 on the year. So if you want to take my fantasy advice, take it with that fantasy grain of salt. I'm pretty average.
I also got 4 wins this week. To be 4-1 on the week. Bringing my overall record to 27-23, 54% win percentage.
Back in the red, or
5
the
and
black?
5. I am 5-5 in 4 leagues. Just I'm the definition of average.
Nice.
Yep. No, if I was a coin flip, I'd be one or the other.
That shit's deep, Josh. You should write a book.
Funny you should mention it. I've been writing a coloring book for like the last 10 years.
How's she turning out?
Well, right now it's just a bunch of tornadoes, but I'm thinking I'm getting somewhere with my tornado coloring book.
Okay. Do you want to go through the top performers of the week, Josh?
Yeah. Quarterback, Lamar Jackson, 33.4. Daniel Jones, the guy who I had picked up and decided to drop for Chase.
For Chase Daniels?
Nope.
Is that what you were going to say?
Nope.
For Chase Daniels. Interesting.
Probably would have got me more points than the guy I got. Daniel Jones, 30.3, and then Mahomes with 30. Derrick Henry had 2 big touchdowns for 33 points. Dalvin Cook, 31.3, and Aaron Jones, 27.3. I think that's like the 4th time we've seen both those guys in the same week as the top 3 performers.
They've been studs, man.
Christian Kirk, 38 points on someone's bench. Darius Slayton with 34, and Tyreek Hill with 33. Tight ends, we've got Mark Andrews coming back to the leaderboard with 23.3, Travis Kelce, 20.5, and Whitey Hollister, 20.2.
You have an absolutely breathtaking hiney.
Thank you, Mr. Burgundy. Studs and duds, how'd you do, Gar?
Well, Josh, had Old BC Johnson as the stud. He's only projected 5.5, so pretty low risk pick. He only got 4.5, so that's -1 for me. Pick Zeke as the dud, though. He was projected 19.8. I was like, nah, man, I got a good feeling about Zim. I was correct. He only got 8.3. That's positive 11.5 on Zeke, positive 10.5 on the week. I'm back, baby.
Kai's trying to dig a hole in the basement.
We hear digging, yeah.
Josh, that's me. I had Christian McCaffrey as a stud. He was technically a stud, despite losing. He got 0.7 points over his projection. Nick Chubb, I had as a dud, who was in dud indeed with 14.1.
In dud indeed, is that what you just said?
Yep. 3.5 under his projection, bringing me up to 4.2 positive for the week.
Ladies. Oh, fuck. I clicked off the page. What an idiot. Eric Ebron was a stud, 3.3 over his projection. Juju Smith-Schuster, 4.1 under his projection. Overall, Eric's was positive 7 on the week. Good for you, buddy.
Nikita, woof. Her and I talked about it. She did have Latavius as a stud. That entire game for New Orleans was completely Dudley. And so she got -5.5 for her there. Chris Carson had that benefit of being in overtime, getting those extra yards, even though I think he outscored his projection before then. So she got -10.1 on the week.
Sorry, Nikita. Walters, Devin Singletary as the stud. Nope. He's projected 13, only got 8. Stephon Diggs as the dud. That was correct, though. 14.6 projected, 7.9 actual. Overall, Walters was 1.7 in the black on the week.
My turn. Brian. Derek Carr as a stud. He was not a stud. He got 13.1, 2.4 points under his projection. Albert Wilson, on the other hand, was a dud, giving him 8.2 points positive, finishing with 5.8 on the week.
Not bad, Bri. Not bad. Not as good as me, but not bad. This week, I got Darren Fells as my stud. Dude's been a touchdown machine in Houston. Projected 6.8, gets 1 touchdown. He surpasses that. Christian Kirk is the dud. Only a dud because he was shut down completely against San Fran last time, which was like 3 weeks ago. So I think he gets shut down again, and we'll see.
Hunter Renfrow. Probably a guy you guys haven't heard about too much.
White guy, receding hairline, Oakland Raiders. Beautiful.
Looks like he's 45. He's a rookie. He's projected 8.4. He is my stud for the week, just because I think people aren't going to take him seriously for A, being white, B, looking like their grandpa. My dud for the week, Jordan Howard, projected 11.6. He is going up against that stout New England defense, and he has Miles Sanders, who is, in my opinion, a top 10 running back.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
His actual position, I think, was 26 last time I checked.
Yep, but Jordan Howard projected 11.6 going up against New England. New England's defense is legit, coming off a bye. Yikes.
Yikes, indeed. Josh is going to go investigate some digging, so I'll continue. Again, Erickson and Walters are currently no-shows in the week, which is totally fine. They're humans that exist, but Nikita's got Lamar Jackson as the stud. We don't have the projection. Lamar Jackson's playing Houston, which is a terrible secondary. TRBL, terrible secondary. So definitely a chance for Lamar Jackson to light it up. And then David Johnson is the dud. That man, like we've mentioned, has been absent, has been wrong, has been bad, has been all negative adjectives you can think of in the last couple of weeks. We don't know what's going on, but that is a great dud pick, unless he's so bad that he doesn't play, in which case it won't count. But great dud pick, Nikita.
Brian has Irv Smith Jr. as a stud, projected 3.9. That is 2 catches for 9 yards. And with Kirk Cousins, that's just 2 catches.
2 catches for 9 yards, Josh? That'd be 2.9. Are you saying both catches are 9 yards?
No.
That's still not quite there.
No, I said 3 catches for 9 yards.
Oh, excuse
me. And with
me.
Kirk Cousins throwing, that's 3 yards a catch. So, good pick, Brian. Royce Freeman is his dud, 9.9. I think that's a fair pick because Philip Lindsay is going to get me 400,000 points in the...
Against Minnesota?
Against Minnesota in the Victorious Secret League.
If you say so, buddy. Try again.
Yeah, okay, well, the Vikings are terrible.
Can't argue with that.
Can't argue with that. Damn, Gerby, you are good. All right. So that was the fantasy fun time, Josh. Let's talk about the redraft week. Week 10, we just had a week that existed. I won, Josh. I believe you lost, if memory serves. Is that correct?
Yup.
Ha, nerd. Brief walkthrough of all the games.
Side bet winner.
Oh, Josh, that's a good call out. That is a good call out. Hold on.
It's true that every man has his price. And it's also true that money won is a lot sweeter than money earned. Now he's a philosophizer.
Derek won. Tyreek Hill got him 33 in the flex.
33 in the flex. That's a lot.
Yeah, that was my stud too.
Sounds like you're good at this or something.
I have a podcast, so yeah, I'm the best.
Anyways, brief walkthrough of all the games. All right. I beat Brian, like I said, 110 to 98. Wasn't a super convincing win. Ronald Jones, though, surprise, got me 22. Kirk got me 19. Brian, your defense was your scoring leader, so you're never going to win that game. Sorry, bud. Next, we have...
I don't have it pulled up. You're going to have to go through it all.
Next, we have Jamie at Nate. Jamie beats Nate 115 to 94. Jamie is Patrick Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey were top two scorers. Of course, Nate had Kyler in there for some reason, but he was pretty good, 26.8, but not good enough. Next, we have the biggest upset potentially in the season, definitely of the week. Hammer beats Willie 159.3 to 143.9. Hammer had Amari Cooper with 32, Josh Allen 25, Jarvis Landry 24. Willie had Dalvin Cook 33, Aaron Jones 27, two of the top three running backs, Le'Veon Bell 16. Willie, we've all regarded as the unstoppable team in the league, but Hammer puts it all together, no weaknesses. Hammer upsets the best team in the league by far. Good for you, Hammer. Next, Garrett beats Jesse 104 to 93.6. Garrett refuses to die. I don't like his team, and yet he keeps finding ways to win games. Greg Olson and Robert Woods led it for Garrett. Aaron Rodgers was not good enough for Jesse. Neither was Gerald Everett or Allen Robinson. Next, we have Robin in what Josh dubbed as the forgettable. Robin beat Bradley 109.5 to 109.1. 0.4 difference there. Robin was led by Derrick Henry, who had 33, and Deebo Samuel with 19. Brad's Michael Thomas, what would we call it? Coattail riding was not enough. Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback. That's interesting. The Brady Bradersons are starting Ryan Tannehill, but it wasn't enough. Sorry, Brad. Big League beat up on Little League, 95 to 89.5. T drafted Melvin Gordon in the first round. It was a joke until now. Can he make the playoffs? Probably not. He also had Kyle Rudolph, who uncharacteristically had a 19-point game. That was 4 catches for 14 yards. Dude had 19 points, so do that math. A lot of touchdown points. And then Josh, Mark Andrews was your top performer. Devonta Adams, Nick Chubb, just wasn't enough. T is what some would say big league. Finally, holy shit. Am I seeing this correct? It wasn't the case at the time, but your wife changed her team name.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, at the time, Derek, the Walking Tacos, beat T. Mitchell 126.3 to 84.6. As we mentioned, Tyreek Hill, beast for Derek. Derek's going to make the playoffs, which is crazy. Baltimore defense, and Chris Carson was his top 3. Nikita, led by Dak, did not get enough on the board. That was that, Josh. In our predictions from last week, you had 2 correct out of 7. I had 5 correct out of 7.
Yeah! Wait.
Nerd. And that was it on the week, Josh. You want to throw any other comments in about your matchup?
Nope. Just texting the group.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to move on to talking about redraft league week 11?
Yeah. Side bet for the week, 30, flirty, and thriving. Team with any starter closest to 30 points. If there's a tie, second closest player.
That seems like a fair tiebreaker to me. So, Josh, we got playoffs are right around the corner. We'll get into the matchups in just a second, but plenty of matchups with implications is what I meant to say. We have 14 teams. 13 teams are still in the hunt. Technically, Nate, the 14th team, is in the hunt. He's 2-8, though. Would need a miracle to get in the playoffs. So I'll say 13 out of 14 teams are still eligible, and any of them could make the playoffs. There's a lot of ties down at the bottom there. So we will see what happens. No one is technically eliminated from playoff contention yet, and no one has technically clinched their playoff spot yet. So, even the top team like Jamie could, in a perfect storm of madness, miss the playoffs. Pretty improbable, but possible. If anyone was wondering, the playoff seeding tiebreaker is total points 4. So even if you're not winning every game, if you want to win that tiebreaker, which I guarantee the last couple spots will come down to a tiebreaker, make sure you're putting up your best lineup every week. Get those points out of your starters so you can win that tiebreaker, even if your record isn't the best. All you need is a spot in the game, and you have a chance. A chip and a chair in poker terms. Hey, Josh, are you going to talk the rest of the podcast, or are you just going to keep texting the group?
Oh, I'm going to, yeah. So hang on. What are we at?
So we're talking about the Week 11 matchups. You can either look at the agenda, or you can look at ESPN.
I'm looking at the agenda. First, I have Gar at Gar. Last two.
So those notes are for, like, the playoff implications. You don't have to read those necessarily, but...
Yep. So we got Garlic, 6-4, going up against Garrett, 5-5. I have Garlic winning.
Oh, Josh, do you mean it?
No.
Do you have any reasoning behind that, or just that's what you feel?
I'm going straight truthiness on this one.
Okay, for what it's worth, I'm projected to win 122 to Garrett's 114. I hate Garrett's team, and I'm sure he's going to beat me because I've been trash talking his team for weeks now. But the dude is somehow 5-5. If the playoffs were today, he'd be the 7th seed. Just incredible. He'd be playing Willie, though, so that'd be a woof. But, I'm going to have to take myself here as well.
Next game, we have Nikita, that's my wife, at Josh, that's me. We've got a marriage bowl going. I would pick this game, but we've got controversy going on in the league that shouldn't be a controversy because due process had been handled properly. And so I'm just going to go ahead and abstain from voting.
Okay, Josh abstains. He is currently projected to win 119.4 to Nikita's 103.4. Again, that is barring whether or not Lamar Jackson is in his lineup. I guess I have to pick Josh in this one. The interesting tidbit side piece of this game would be that Josh is currently on a 4-game losing streak. Nikita's on a 3-game losing streak. So one of these teams has to turn it around. Otherwise, their playoff hopes are literally out the window. I don't know who Josh's quarterback could be if it wasn't Lamar Jackson, but I'll still take Josh in this one. And since Josh abstained...
Well, it's going to be Lamar Jackson because I would use my commissioner powers to put him back on my team.
You have reached levels of very personal and pettiness, Josh, it appears.
Absolutely.
Well, at least... there's that. All right, so the next matchup is definitely America's matchup of the week. We have Willie facing Jamie. First place versus second place, 8-2 versus 7-3. Jamie is currently projected to win 122.1 to 118.1, so it's going to be close. Willie's team has been unstoppable. He did just lose Austin Hooper. He does somehow have O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard has been terrible, has had one good week, but it was last week, so who knows? Jamie, of course, has Patty Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey. Willie has Kyle Allen as starting quarterback. That's a little bit rough, but he's got Dalvin Cook, and I think he has another stud running back, but I'm guessing he's on bye this week. It looks like it might be a good week to play Willie. Actually, his lineup doesn't look that crazy. I'm actually going to take Jamie in this one. I'm going to say Jamie continues to keep her first place reign, and I'm picking Jamie over Willie this week, led by, of course, Christian McCaffrey and Patrick Mahomes.
Jamie. Next up, we have Jesse, 6-4 at Nate, 2-8. I think Nate's going to plug in his 2 new players, and he's going to get the victory in this one.
Is that what you think, Josh? The same Nate that didn't even set his lineup completely last week?
Yep.
All right, I'm picking Jesse. He's 6-4. Nate's team is abysmal. Nate has all but given up, despite the argument Josh will try and make in his favor. Jesse doesn't have Aaron Rodgers this week, but Derek Carr I think is a great substitute. I also like Julio Jones, Mark Ingram, Damian Williams has been hot of late. DJ Chark, Allen Robinson. Yeah, I got to pick Jesse in this one. There's no way I don't. Okay, next we have Robin at AJ, both teams 4-6. Currently, AJ is projected to win 121.6 to Robin's 96.9, excuse me. Hammer has been hot as of late, and I think he has a favorable last couple matchups. So right now, he's technically not in the playoffs if they were today, but I think Hammer makes it in the game. He's got almost every advantage this week. I really like Josh Allen and Alvin Kamara. Amari Cooper's always a stud. Jarvis Landry's been getting hot. Hunter Henry, great flex. That's a sexy flex at a hammer. Robin's team is just too little too late. I'm taking AJ in this one.
Same. Next up, we have T at Brad. 5-5 T versus Brad 4-6. I'm going to go with T on this one just because he just beat me.
You think he keeps going?
Yep.
Currently, Brad is projected to win 84.5 to T's 80.8. Currently, though, T is missing 2 players in his starting lineup. Brad's missing 1. So, Brad has been sliding in the wrong direction. Brad being carried by Michael Thomas has been helping him immensely. Kareem Hunt is a great pickup. I think he has plenty of PPR potential for Brad. Meanwhile, the other side, T, Melvin Gordon's been getting hot. T is currently starting both Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, so that's got some balls on him. T also has the NFC West receivers locked down with Tyler Lockett and Emmanuel Sanders, both questionable, though, currently. Kyle Rudolph will not repeat. He's got Tyrell in the flex. I think this matchup's going to be closer than it probably should be, but I will also go with T just because I think T's team is getting hot here at the end with his lineup finally getting together here. Final matchup, we have Derek at Brian. The Walking Taco at the Skybusters. Currently, Derek is projected to win 115.7 to Brian's 95.6. Both of them currently have full starting lineups. I would assume Brian would have set his lineup by now. He's currently projected to lose by 20. Derek has been hella hot lately. I think Drew Brees bounces back against Tampa Bay. Philip Lindsay should have a bad day. OBJ is not that great. Actually, I'm not in love with Derek's team as much as I thought I will. Tyreek Hill, though, definitely has the potential to carry that entire Derek team. Brian is, of course, led by Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. He's missing T.Y. Hilton, so that's not good for him. I don't know. Another matchup, I think it's going to be closer than what the paper is telling me. But just because I like Derek's momentum, I like what Derek's team has been doing, I'm going to take Derek here to beat Brian. Brian, you're in a good position, but your playoff spot is yours to lose, so you can't lose this one, buddy. Josh is feverishly texting the league continually, so...
Texting Nate.
Okay.
Because he was the other person involved in the trade, not the league. Just kidding.
You're retarded. So Josh...
I'm just texting him to text the group.
Sure. So do you have an opinion on Derek at Brian, Mr. Truthiness?
Derek.
Okay. So that is all the matchups. Josh was pretty distracted, so kind of one-sided analysis there, but it happens from time to time. Josh is, of course, in a stressful situation at the moment with all the trade controversy. So that's it for the show. I always ask Josh if he has any final words, and since I haven't read my phone since the podcast started, but it seems like some stuff is starting to pop off. Josh, do you have any final words you want to throw out there?
Go Packers.
Go Packers. Josh, thank you for having me in your home. Nikita, thank you as well. I always say Odin and Kaya, fuck you. Ryan Walters, thank you for listening. Eric Kesterix, Eric Landvik, Jamie Hammer, Levi Ogie, Zach Wells, Brian Knupp, AJ Hammer, Bradley Knupp, Jesse Morset, Jordan Bates. We all love you very much. We appreciate your listenership. HiddenOaksOverdose@gmail.com, Facebook.com/HoodPod. We love you. We thank you. Playoffs are right around the corner. Go to sleep. So I assume just Nate has not said anything yet, or?
Not in the group.
Okay.